Hello, I am taking on a challenge to beat every playable Nintendo published game. Welcome to the next episode. The next game is Space Firebird. That's right, Nintendo's still not done with space games. While this one is a bit closer to the original Space Invaders than the last one, at least this one's not as blatant of a ripoff as Space Fever was. This game's key differentiator was the enemy design. Gone are the generic aliens floating aimlessly in space, and in their place we have the Firebirds. These birds are featured extensively in their marketing for the game, so it's clear that Nintendo saw these Firebirds as the key draw to their game. The game was released in 1980 by Nintendo in Japan, and Far East Video helped with the distribution in America. So, what's the deal with these Firebirds? Looking at the flyer for the game, it looks like these mysterious attacking Firebirds showed up out of nowhere while you were flying through deep space. There are three main types of Firebirds: Gulls, Eagles, and Emperors. Will I be able to survive the barrage of endless waves of these mysterious attackers? Let's find out. As stated before, while this isn't quite as blatant of a Space Invaders ripoff, it is still a space game that involves you shooting waves of enemies. Instead of swarming at you all at once, the Firebirds fly in bit by bit, often in small groups. Taking a hint from Namco's Galaxian, their movement patterns are far more advanced here than in Space Fever. While this looks much cooler, unfortunately, it made it way harder to aim at the enemies, and I often just shot randomly in the general direction of the Firebirds. Taking too long to defeat the enemies isn't as big of a problem anymore either. Eventually, if you take too long, the birds will fly towards you, and you have to move left or right to dodge them, but the level continues on like normal once you successfully dodge them. When dodging these attacks, there's a strange mechanic when you move to the edges of the screen. Your ship will move a bit forward on its own as you approach the sides. This lets you dodge enemies that are sweeping at you from the side, but it also makes it easy to accidentally move into a Firebird or a missile. There's one final major mechanic in the game. Once per life, you can press a button and surround your ship with a force field. Your ship will also start moving forwards when you do this move too. This move lets you get out of tight situations, and it lets you ram into the Firebirds to get easier kills. Since you only get to use it once per life, I often found myself dying when I should have used it, since I didn't want to waste it on something I thought I could escape from. As said before, there are three main types of Firebirds that attack you, and they each behave a little differently. The smallest birds are the Gulls. They die in one hit, but they move so fast that they can still be a pain to kill. The next largest birds are the Eagles. These are pretty similar to Gulls, but they take 2 hits to defeat, and they can drop bombs that explode if you don't destroy them in time. The last Firebird is the Emperor. These take a whopping 4 hits to destroy, but they don't fire any actual shots. Honestly, despite their name and stature, I found these to be the easiest to deal with, since their size and speed generally made them much easier to hit. In each level, there are 50 Firebirds that will attack you. Defeating them is the best way to move forwards, but sometimes they just leave after swooping at you. On my first attempt, I died with only 1 Firebird left. Bummer. The next run went a lot better, and I was able to complete a level. This more or less feels like an adequate objective for the game, but the flyer does mention that the game has 3 missions. Because of this, I decided to see if I could beat 3 levels. Each level was pretty similar, and the main difference was that the Firebirds just flew in different patterns. I was struggling a lot to beat level 3, and it was around here that I realized that I can configure the machines to give you more lives. I initially wasn't sure if this felt too much like cheating, but the original arcade machines could be configured this way, so the developers definitely intended for this to be an option. At worst, it just feels like I'm playing the games on an easier difficulty, and I'm okay with that. I didn't beat it immediately after this, but with this change, it didn't take me too long to beat level 3. There were still more levels after this, but I think the Firebird formation started to repeat at this point. I died on level 4, but I had accomplished my goal and was content with the game. Game complete. On to the review. I wanted to like this one more than I did. On paper, this feels like it should just be a more advanced version of Space Invaders, Space Fever, and I generally like the unique approach Nintendo took with the Firebirds. However, in practice, the enemy movements made attacking far too random, and I mostly just spammed the fire button near the enemies and hoped they would land. The side dodging was a little weird too, and I wish they let you use the power-up more often than once per life. This game looks cool and has a sense of style, but it unfortunately just doesn't feel very good to play. I gave the game a 5 out of 10. Thanks for watching the video. If you want to see more of these in the future, make sure you subscribe to the channel so that you won't miss out on the next one. Also leave a like if you enjoyed it, since it'll help the channel grow and motivate me to continue the series. I hope I'll see you in the next step of my quest to beat every Nintendo game.